Hello, I'm Marion Ginopolis, Superintendent of the Lake Orion Community Schools. As you know, the Board of Education has approved placing a bond proposal on the November 6th ballot, and I really appreciate this opportunity to share with our community information that is related to the bond proposal. You know, I'm often asked, what is a bond and why is it needed? A bond is one source of funding for public schools. But let me back up a little bit. It's really important to note that prior to 1994, Michigan resident property taxes were the primary source of funding in our local school districts. However, because of a loud outcry from taxpayers over high taxes and also inequities in funding schools throughout the state because of varying property values, a result was the enactment of Proposal A. That eliminated the use of local property taxes for school funding and created a new state education tax. And since that time, our schools receive what is known as a foundation grant, and that's based on how many students are in the district. So what Proposal A did was it took away the voters' ability to increase their taxes for a school's general fund for any capital enhancements. However, Proposal A does allow voters to approve the sale of bonds to fund capital improvements. And that's why voter-approved bonding is the method used by school districts for these kinds of capital improvements. The bottom line is that our general fund operating budget revenue, primarily funded by the foundation grant, does not provide the monies for the kinds of improvements that a bond proceed would. What I'd like to do now is just take a few minutes and review what we've done in the past few years that has led to the bond proposal that will be on the November 6th ballot. First, previous district-wide growth in past years resulted in building a number of new schools. That was the high school, a middle school, Oakview Middle School, and 2 elementary schools. These were funded through previous voter-approved bonds where the district accumulated debt. Fortunately, we've had the opportunity to reduce our debt by refunding a number of previous bonds. And in the last 7 years, we have reduced this by over $76 million with a savings or cost avoidance to our taxpayers of $16 million. Lake Orion Community Schools has effectively managed its finances to protect student achievement, which has been our number one priority, while at the same time lowering our debt and restoring our fund balance. About 3.5 years ago, as a result of reduced funding for public schools and a number of enrollment changes, we knew we had to make some major changes to the district with the goal, as I said, of protecting our outstanding instructional programs for our kids. First, with a projected deficit looming in front of us, we were able to make adjustments and present a balanced budget for the school year. At the same time, a long-range planning committee was convened that was comprised of community members, parents, and staff to provide input into a restructuring process. For over a year in Phase 2, we were able to right-size the district for the current and anticipated population of students by closing 1 elementary school and redrawing the district boundaries. And this past school year was a year to transition to the new landscape of the district and really to begin to plan for the future and identify additional opportunities for our students to enhance all of our programs for all of our kids. And here's where we are now. We are in the last phase, Phase 5 of this restructuring process. This past school year has led up to the development of a 10-year capital improvement plan. During this time, staff and community members were surveyed. We met with a number of individuals. Audits were conducted. Detailed reviews of all of our facilities were also conducted, really to look at the facility needs for our district assets. And all of that has led to the Board of Education approving a bond proposal to be placed on the November 6th ballot. Quite frankly, there were over $300 million of improvements initially identified. And the board and the administration prioritized the projects to $160 million. These improvements were really planned so there would be no expected increase in the annual debt millage to our taxpayers from what they are currently paying. So the bond proposal that will be on the ballot on November 6th is for $160 million with no tax rate increase. It will remain the same as it is currently, 7.49 mils. And it's structured so the bonds will be sold in 3 installments, also called series, to reduce the amount of interest. This proposal, we started with needs, we refined and prioritized, and we came up with this plan. It is not a near-term plan. It's setting our district up for the next 20 years to educate students to compete on the global stage. These are not nice-to-haves, they're needed. When a district goes to the voters for a bond election, their application, which is very extensive, must be first approved by the Michigan Department of Treasury. There are very specific restrictions on how bond proceeds can then be spent and how they cannot be spent. Bond proceeds are strictly for capital improvements. They cannot be used for operating expenses and definitely not for salaries. One question that keeps coming up among community members is the differentiation between a bond and a sinking fund, which our community passed in 2016. In other words, why do you need a bond when we just passed a sinking fund? First, think of a bond as a home mortgage where you would borrow a lump sum of money. With a bond, the money borrowed is through the sale of bonds, not by going to a lending institution. A sinking fund is quite different. It's really a limited property tax that's levied to you annually to address smaller building repair needs and improvements. It's more like a debit card where the money on hand is accessed to pay for projects. Take a look at this slide for a minute. These are some real-life examples of how a sinking fund monies are used compared to bond proceeds, which are on the chart. A sinking fund has allowed us to fix, patch, and repair, whereas a bond will provide the funding to permanently replace, update, and renovate our facilities to take us well into the future. We've been diligent in our implementation of the Building and Site Sinking Fund. We've stayed on target, on budget, and on time with all of our projects. However, the sinking fund that was approved does not generate the revenue to address the major needs of the district that a bond would. As you will see in this chart, one of our major portions of the bond proposal is for safety and security. These are things that cannot be covered in a sinking fund. You know, another concern that was raised by our community was paying back short life assets over a long period of time. Let me go back again to the requirements from the Michigan Department of Treasury. Their requirements and the law states all short-term assets are the first things that must be paid off and must be paid within the first 5 years after the success of a bond. You'll see on this chart those kinds of different assets and the period of time for which they must be paid. Our school district is large, with numerous facilities and sites. The district's responsibility is to take care of these facilities and sites. However, these sites and these assets belong to the community. Their condition impacts your property value and impacts businesses coming into the community. In a survey conducted by Orion Township a while back, a question was asked, why do people move to Lake Orion? And the top response was, because of the school district. The projects in this bond proposal can be categorized into 3 areas: safer schools, smarter schools, and stronger schools. Safety is an increasing priority. I don't have to tell you that. Clearly, safe schools are critical to protect our students. The projects in the bond include secure entries, cameras, lighting, entry access controls. For smarter schools, they include updating our classrooms into modern learning spaces, integrating technology, server infrastructure, science, technology, engineering, math, STEM classrooms, and so on. And for stronger schools, we have included those critical upgrades to aging infrastructure in all of our buildings, along with energy efficiency, as well as upgrades to mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Our facilities are out of date. If you take a look at this chart, you'll see the age of our buildings. You'll see that our facilities range in age from 70 years old, which is Blanche Sims Elementary, to 17 years old, which is Oakview Middle School, the last school that was built with a bond. The average age of our facilities is 43 years old. Our schools are out of date for current learning. They have a lot of issues that need taken care of. The projects in this bond proposal will address the critical improvements to address the needs of all of our facilities, and especially to those most in need. And most importantly, it will position us in this school district for at least the next 20 years. I'd like to address one issue that's included in the bond proposal that focuses on the Scripps Road complex. For those of you who have the opportunity to drive down Scripps Road in the morning when school begins, you'll see what a complex that really is. The Scripps Road complex includes the high school, Scripps Middle School, the Cirque building, and Stadium Drive Elementary, along with a number of athletic fields. The limited access to that area is a problem, as well as the age and condition of some of the facilities. There are numerous challenges that the bond will address. The Cirque facility is now 62 years old, and it's in dire need of major renovations. This proposal includes the demolition of a portion of the building rather than renovation. By demolishing the portion of the building that's indicated on this slide, there's a need to relocate some of the functions that are currently housed at the Cirque facility. The board spent considerable time discussing whether to renovate Cirque or erect a replacement facility for our early childhood programs. Current early childhood programs are housed at the Cirque building, which is 62 years old, in classrooms that are designed as high school classrooms back in 1957 when that building was a high school. The current Cirque building has 16 rooms for early childhood programs, with 3 early childhood program rooms in some of our elementary schools. We have award-winning early childhood programs in this district, servicing close to 400 children last year. Some of the programs are required. For instance, Head Start, Great Start Readiness, Early Childhood Special Education, and a few others that are either state or federally funded. Others, like our community preschool programs, are fee-based. Our early childhood programs, I think it's really important to note, are self-supporting. There's no cost to the district, and they generate revenue to the district. And this is why most surrounding districts like Clarkston, Rochester, and Troy have or are building early childhood centers in their district. The plan is to build a replacement center that would be 21 rooms, allowing us to bring those 3 classrooms that are right now spread out in elementary schools into the center, as well as have additional room for growth and for additional revenue. This will allow us not only to be in compliance with all of the rules and regulations that are for early childhood programs, but give us an opportunity to increase and improve our revenue in this area. There are a number of other functions that are currently in the Cirque building that would be relocated to the Scripps Middle School on the main floor. Special education programs that are currently, or have been last year, in the Cirque building have already been relocated to the new Pine Tree Center. The emotional, social, and physical development of our young children really has a direct effect on their overall development, and we are really committed to early childhood education. The need to invest in our very young children is so important to maximize their future well-being and preparing them to transition into elementary schools. The cost differential to renovate CIRC versus a replacement early childhood center with more capacity for generating additional revenue is estimated to be about $6 million difference. The board really wrestled with this decision, and their final decision was that a replacement early childhood center, number one, keeps us competitive with our neighboring districts, has the potential to generate revenue, and will be preparing students for our K-12 program. Like the previous decision that I mentioned about the early childhood center, the board concluded that making a major financial commitment to renovate Blanche Sims Elementary was not fiscally responsible, nor a sound investment of taxpayer dollars. Blanche Sims is a facility that is 70 years old. It's the only Lake Orion school for resident students in Lake Orion Village. It's a building that's outdated, inefficient building systems that need replacement. So the plan is to replace the Blanche Sims Elementary School. If you look at this slide, you'll see that almost every one of the Oakland County districts have had successful bond issues in recent years. Lake Orion's last successful bond issue was in 2002. In this proposal, we started with needs and we refined. It's not a near-term plan, as I mentioned before, but rather setting us up for 20 years to educate our students to compete not just with our neighbors, but on a global level. Please vote on November the 6th. The polls will be open from 7 until 8 p.m. To check your location, check with your township or your city. Of course, you can get absentee ballots. The voter registration deadline is October 9th, which is not that far off. Transparency is the key to building trust between the school district and all of our stakeholders, parents, staff, and community members. On our website, we've actually placed the Michigan Department of Treasury pre-qualification application that was approved by the Treasury Department. This contains all of the projects, costs, and plans. There are presentations, summaries of the projects, frequently asked questions, quick facts, including the ballot with an explanation of each part. If you would please go to our website, the site address is listed on this slide. Questions are answered immediately by sending them to the address shown on this slide as well. Following this presentation, you'll have the opportunity to see a short video that really captures the essence of our bond proposal. Again, I hope you will vote on November the 6th. I thank you for the opportunity to present this information, and please feel free to contact us if you have further questions. Thank you.
Welcome to Lake Orion, where the world surrounds us. On our majestic lakes, downtown with our landmark shops and restaurants, in our parks and community. We welcome people with the vacation invitation, and soon they learn that we're more than nature and beauty. We're proud of our people. Our community evolves with our citizens, beginning small and growing tall, with Lake Orion Community Schools at its core. On November 6, 2018, Lake Orion residents will be asked to consider a bond proposal developed to build safer, smarter, and stronger Lake Orion Community Schools. If approved, there would be no expected tax rate increase to property owners, providing a multi-stage improvement to the LOCS schools. This bond proposal would generate $160 million for district-wide improvements to address identified and ongoing facility and environment issues. Spent in 3 stages over 10 years, the funding would address capital improvements as a part of the district's long-term master plan for school buildings and sites. Lake Orion Community Schools operates 14 facilities with over 1.3 million square feet of space on over 400 acres of sites, with each being addressed in the plans. These are facilities that belong to the community. Safer schools would be a focus, with secure entrances and enhanced surrounding lighting at all buildings outside and additional safety measures on the inside. From hardware on classroom doors to additional access control systems with key card security access for staff. Improving accessibility for physically challenged students and visitors inside buildings and safety opportunities for all students on the playgrounds. Replacing aging school buses would keep the fleet modern and safe, traveling to and from school, while updating school drop-off and pickup traffic patterns to refine those areas for better flow. Smarter schools would stem from renovating classrooms to become modern learning spaces, as flexible furniture would support 21st century learning, students and teachers moving with the lessons. Age-appropriate science and math areas would be developed in all school buildings, supporting expanded programming. The type studies show produces the most desired workplace candidates. Addressing the ongoing technology needs of our students comes from appropriate equipment and improved access required for modern learning. Computers and other digital devices enhance learning in powerful ways. The digital demand far exceeds our current devices. Evolving technology needs would allow us to make improvements with new student devices, in-classroom multimedia equipment, server infrastructure, and wireless internet access. There are immense benefits connecting pre-K and kindergarten more closely, and this opportunity would construct an early childhood center, embracing our youngest students. Each of our buildings, some constructed 70 years ago, well past the useful 40-year life, needs structural help, some to a critical degree. From additional classrooms to reconstructed entrances to even a reconstructed facility, each would be addressed with essential updates. The oldest building in the district, Blanche Sims Elementary, would get a complete reconstruction from its current outdated facility, providing the community with a school appropriate for those students' education. Stronger schools would come through infrastructure. At an average of 40 years old, the current school facilities are operating with outdated internal systems, some in dire need of an upgrade. Extending or replacing them are essential for the day-to-day operations in Michigan's changing weather seasons. With critical upgrades to mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, the out-of-sight operations will remain rolling smoothly and out of students' minds. Energy will be more efficient. Air quality will improve. New boilers, chillers, controls, and water heaters would be one step, with the surrounding elements, roofs, flooring, doors, and windows, parking lot and sidewalks, getting an improvement as well. The improvements included in this bond proposal will positively impact our district for future generations of students. Addressing these issues through a bond proposal would allow the focus to remain on education, not operations. For more than 3 years, district administrators and community members planned toward this moment. The long-term master plan supports our mission to provide an exemplary education for all learners. The Community Long-Range Planning Committee established the foundation with the joint goals of maintaining and expanding student programming while ensuring financial stability. Using a phased approach, each goal landed on time and within the budget. Staff and community were surveyed, leading to a detailed review of district facilities, leading to November's bond election. This bond proposal would provide $160 million for district-wide improvements to build safer, smarter, stronger Lake Orion Community Schools, with no expected tax rate increase to property owners. Voters have a chance to position the district for decades to come. Find full details of this proposal on the district website.